So I'd like to welcome you guys into the courtroom. Because today we're putting Rover Sports on the stand. He's accused of wanting to fire Pat Shurmur. That's an absolute absurd statement, and let's go into why.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? I wanted to talk about the New York Giants, and I wanted to talk about Pat Shurmur and his future. I'm not really a Shurmur fan. Pat Shurmur has never won a playoff game. He's never won more than 5 games as a head coach. He was a failure in Cleveland, and he was a failure this year. Pat Shurmur this year was terrible against Jacksonville. He was not good against the Dallas Cowboys. That game was atrocious game planning wise, and he just can't plan. And you can't blame anything on Eli Manning at quarterback. You see how limited Jared Goff has in terms of tools and how successful he was in his first year. Eli Manning is a veteran in this NFL. You have Odell Beckham Jr., Edelman in the slot was so successful in the Super Bowl. Julian Edelman, the Patriots have a lot less pieces than the Giants. The Giants have Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, and Saquon Barkley. And that offense was atrocious for so much of this year. The offense was terrible in the Dallas game. Even against Houston, they barely scored 23 points. Then they came back and played New Orleans, and that offense was an utter joke with no downfield passing. And he lost the locker room.
So, what does he go to? He says the first half of the season. Well, the Giants' first half of the season was a debacle. No continuity on the line whatsoever. Yet, you want to blame this on Pat Shurmur. Now, let's break this down. Let me think, Rover. What would any offensive mind just installing an offense? See, I could see you making this case if this is Pat Shurmur's second year, third year, fourth year, and the offense started slow. But this is not Pat Shurmur's first, second, or third year as a head coach, is it? It's his first. And what happens in a first year? Especially an offensive-minded head coach like a Pat Shurmur. Let me think here. Oh, yeah. He's installing an offense. What will any offensive mind tell you when you're installing an offense? It takes 4 to 6 weeks because they don't get to work with the players as much as they would like to. So I'm going to give Pat Shurmur's 4 to 6 weeks an absolute reprieve. I don't care what happened. There was no continuity on the line. There was no continuity on this team, period. So your argument holds no water, period. None. Because if you look at the season as a whole, we scored the most points in our division. So let's continue on.
You know, Odell Beckham was in that locker room, and he was complaining about Pat Shurmur and the play calls. I believe even later in the season, you had the Odell Beckham again causing problems. So Pat Shurmur elected with Dave Gettleman to sign Odell Beckham, and then all Odell Beckham does is insult Patrick Shurmur. And basically, the asset that you agreed to sign is basically insulting you to the public, and you're basically having a whole feud because of the player that you decided to sign on your watch. Now, if the owner made you sign Odell Beckham so that you could sign all these jerseys and so that Odell Beckham can sign all these kids' jerseys and you had no choice and you didn't want to resign, then that's kind of an understandable problem, which is an ownership kind of a problem. And I probably would have resigned. If I was a head coach in the league and the owner told me that you have to sign this player that's going to rip me publicly to the media every single week, I might have resigned on the spot. But
this statement right here, that he would have resigned, is absolutely the most absurd statement I've ever heard anybody say in any of my rebuttal videos. It's ridiculous. Okay? Odell Beckham Jr., everybody knows how I feel about Odell Beckham Jr. I believe he's a toxic sludge. I don't care what kind of coach you want to put. Sean McVay, anybody. You're not going to get... Bill Belichick wouldn't even get the most out of Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Okay? What do you hear out of Odell Beckham Jr.? Me. And just because of one player acting like a fool on your team doesn't mean you lost a team. Mike Tomlin hasn't lost his team, and yet he has Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger. That's a constant episode. Yet Pittsburgh still goes out and plays for him. Pat Shurmur hasn't lost a team because of Odell. Odell is a selfish human being who doesn't belong on the Giants. And I don't want him there. And if you guys look at my previous videos, you know how I feel about Odell Beckham Jr. Pat Shurmur hasn't lost the locker room at all. This is totally, a false statement, period. It holds no water. Pat Shurmur is just fine. These guys are motivated and play for Pat. And if they weren't, guess what they'd be? Off the team. Because Dave Gettleman ain't going to stand for that. Because it takes a team to run an organization, not just a coach. But let's continue on.
But I look at Shurmur. He's dry. He's boring as the day's long. I'm not a fan of Shurmur. I thought that the coach was an okay hire. I never was completely that excited by it. And there's better candidates that.
Okay, I wanted to pause this before he gets into his candidates. He's told you twice in this video that he's not a fan of Shurmur. When Shurmur has a proven track record. Okay? And everybody laughs at what he did in Cleveland. Yet, Pat Shurmur in Cleveland gave them the most wins until this season. The dude's a leader of men. The dude inspires. The dude has had success as an offensive coordinator everywhere he went. And argue even had mild success in Cleveland, even though his record wasn't the greatest. Those guys still played for him. Why is it nobody quits on Pat Shurmur? If you listen to Casey Keenum, he has ringing endorsements about Pat Shurmur. Every person in this league has ringing endorsements about Pat Shurmur. Yet, he wasn't a good hire. If the Giants fired Pat Shurmur, he'd be picked up as an offensive coordinator in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And there's not even an opening. Somebody would fire somebody just to have Pat Shurmur on their squad. Pat Shurmur is a respected coach in this league. And for him to say that is absolutely absurd. Now, he's going to get into his young, exciting candidates. I can't wait to rebuttal him on this.
Better out there. Shane Waldron is a much better candidate. He graduated from Tufts University, Shane Waldron, and Shane Waldron's going to be a guy that is going to be very successful in this league because he was with Bill Belichick, he was with Sean McVay, he went overseas, he went to Tufts. He's a guy who's very, very smart. He worked tight end, he worked wide receivers coach, he worked as the passing game coordinator and came up with really creative concepts when the Rams don't even have that good of wide receivers outside of maybe Todd Gurley or outside of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. And I'm telling you, those guys are not that great of receivers. Kevin O'Connell from the Washington Redskins is going to be a fantastic executive. He's going to be a great head coach. He has the perfect demeanor to do it. He's young. He's fun. He's able to motivate guys. He's a brilliant communicator. He's so bright. He played the quarterback position in the NFL. He's going to be the next Matt Nagy. He just has such a positive attitude, and he's going to create a great culture. Kevin O'Connell is brilliant, and he's great. Waldron and O'Connell are so much better than Shurmur. And then you also have Chris Richard, who's the ultimate defensive wizard, the ultimate guy that is able to galvanize the football team. So,
all right. I don't know much about Chris Richard, but I know a little bit about Shane Waldron, and I know a little bit about Kevin O'Connell. Now, let me tell you something about Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell's bounced around from team to team to team. He's finally found a home with the Redskins. He's now earned his way into the offensive coordinator position. Okay? We'll find out if Kevin O'Connell can be the coach he thinks he is. But the jury's still out. And I wouldn't give this Kevin O'Connell a starting job until he proved he was at least a decent offensive coordinator for at least the next 2 years. But that's just me. You've got to become at least a coordinator before you graduate to being a coach in the NFL. That's my thought process. But going back to Kevin O'Connell, he just became an offensive coordinator in this league. Okay? The jury's still out in the league. Positive things out of Redskins camp. Let's see what he can do with the Redskins this year. If he's as good as coach as he thinks he is, or if he is as good as coach as Rover thinks he is, then Kevin O'Connell should have great success with the Redskins. If he doesn't, he might be on the chopping block. But we'll see. It's his first year. Now moving on to Shane Waldron. He says because he's been under McVay and Belichick, the dude's a bright mind. He's served as wide receivers coach. And I've heard Waldron in multiple circles. And I've heard Rover say, I've heard of Jet Central say it. I'm not a big believer in Waldron because if you were such a great coach, Bill Belichick would find a reason to hold on to you. But he didn't. And right now, Waldron is on McVay's staff. What did McVay's staff do in the biggest game of the year? Dropped the ball. And you want Shane Waldron. Passing coordinator. Where did they lack in the Super Bowl? Efficient passing down the field. Rover, great job with your Shane Waldron pick. And he also likes McVay. And I would take Shermer over McVay. It's not even close. And you guys, Jeff, you're out of mind. Did you see the fear in McVay's eyes when he lost that game? Those baby blues where he was just in shock and awe. We all know the camera shot. Go back and look at the Super Bowl. McVay might be a motivator of men, but he was over his head in that Super Bowl and coached against a coach that's far superior to him. Yet, everybody will sit there and you look at Doug Peterson, and he had the cojones to go in last year and beat the Patriots with his staff. You look at these, young and exciting doesn't mean squat in this league. Give me experience with the X's and O's. And a proven leader of men. Because Shermer's a proven leader of men. And yes, you have some coaches where he'll mention in this clip. Actually, you know what? I'll end it here. Because he goes on to talk about how he believes that Pat Shermer will be fired. And basically, Pat Shermer doesn't hold a candle to either Shanahan or Nagy. He doesn't say it in that specific sense. But he goes on and says that basically the Giants basically made a mistake in hiring Pat Shermer. The problem is, Rover, you didn't like him to begin with. You don't like Pat Shermer. You like young and exciting. It's not young and exciting, so you don't like it. So you find an excuse to come out here and say, I think Pat Shermer should be fired. Now guess what? If you were the GM of the Giants, we would be in dire straits right now. Thank God you're not. This has been One Giant Rebuttal. Please like and subscribe. And go Big Blue! By the way, I just wanted to give you guys a quick thing. I do like Rover, but like I always do, I will be leaving a link to the description in his channel. Peace out.